Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town Council meeting for April 2nd. Please all rise. Council Boncory, please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 19 Town Council meeting.
Motion.
As circulated. I'm sorry about that. Roll call. You forgot to put it on here, Denise.
Oh, jeez.
I should know by now.
That's me. Counselor Ringman. Here. Counselor Callum. Counselor Christopher.
Here.
Counselor Boncory.
Here.
Counselor Serto. Counselor Farino.
Here.
Counselor Conti.
Present.
Vice President Lettieri.
Yeah.
President Vecchia.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, a motion has been made to accept the minutes of the March 19th meeting. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
You got it. Public comment? Yes.
Hi, Kathleen Napoli, Precinct 4. I just want to follow up with the 300 signatures, over 300 that were collected in favor of the audit, the water audit. So we'll turn those in. And hopefully if there's an update on status, I know that there was some discussion about what would qualify under a discussion with the state auditor's office as to how to bring them in to perform such an audit. So I think we found out that you don't need to be defaulting on bills, but I'm not sure where it went from there. I know the assistant town manager was looking into it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else under public comment? Yes, Tom?
I'm going to try to move along what I have to say, because I know you've got some important visitors here tonight, and they want to get on to some pretty good news about for more than one occasion. Late this afternoon, and I'm sorry to come in at the last minute with this. If I had gotten them earlier, I would have made copies and sent them out to the councilors so they would have them in front of them, be able to know it for no other reason than to know what it is I'm talking about. Dick Dimes gave me this afternoon a couple of maps, zoning maps, that show boundaries of the center business district and the residential districts of the surrounding neighborhoods. One of them goes back to 1937. We're not sure of the date of the other one. The other one, I think, comes from folks. I was on the planning board in 1972 to 1975. At that time, if someone came in with a question about whether they could subdivide a lot or whatever type of question they presented to the planning board, we could go to a set of books that were located in the town attorney's office, look up the street, show the map, and then they were so detailed that the map from my house, it actually shows where my back porch comes out on the right-hand side of the street as you're facing it. All of that stuff, we also then updated the map. We had a large map that hung on the wall. It was probably about 4 feet by 3 feet. It was in the selectman's office for years. There was one in the planning board office that was in fine detail. Apparently, none of that stuff is available to any of the officials who have to make determinations right now. The building inspector tells me he had heard anecdotally that when the building department moved to Fort Banks, large volumes of material were not brought down there for their use. He's not sure where they went, but we did find 2 copies. The second document I have, I think, is a copy of that book that I referred to. The other one is a zoning map in 1937. I think both of those will show that the houses that we've had all the questions about, I won't go on through the history of it because we've given advanced time, are in a residential district and have been going back as far as 1937 and probably beyond. So I'll make copies of it and get them into the hands of the council through the clerk and get them to you so you can make that, you'll see and be familiar with what it is we've found.
Thank you, Tommy. Anyone else wish to be heard on the public comment? Okay, public comment. Go ahead.
Hi, I'll be real quick also, because I know this is a big meeting tonight, but Julia Waller's Precinct 2. It's not often I can make meetings on Tuesday night, so I just wanted to pop in and get some face time, let you know a few positive announcements out of the Transportation Advisory Committee, which I'm the chair of. Just as a little sneak peek, we had a very productive, when I say productive, I mean like 3-hour meeting with Line Bike last night. in here where they actually brought their dockless e-assist bikes, which is what the bikes they're transitioning to 100%. We talked every in and out about the mechanics, the safety, the regulation, the legislation of these bikes, and how we might be able to safely, effectively accommodate them in this town. We actually got to ride them, and I have to say it was my first time riding an e-assist bike, and I am totally sold. I recommend everyone to do it. You literally feel like there's just wind blowing you from behind. It feels very safe. Chief Delahanty actually got on one, so just want to give you a heads up that we did approve some joint recommendations between the Transportation Advisory Committee and the Traffic Safety Committee, and we'll be submitting those to the town manager as well as the council for your review in hopes of a very positive biking season coming up, hopefully starting this month. So we have to amend our contract with Lime in order to decide if we want to accommodate the e-bikes and also to extend our season so that we don't wait until June to offer this very important transportation option for our town. So heads up, stay tuned on that. The second thing is good news. I work with the MBTA on bus stop replacement is moving forward, and if any of you follow me on Twitter, you'll see I got the most positive response I've ever got from any tweet when I said that Winthrop was going to be moving forward with actually labeling all of our bus stops appropriately with a sign that says the route, numbers, and the destination. So the T has committed to starting that this spring, so that if you're from out of town, you actually know it's a bus stop, you actually know which direction it's going, and if you're standing there, you feel like you're not just sort of loitering. So very positive, exciting news. And then there's 3 phases of that. The first is the replacement of the signs. That's immediate, that's easy. The second is, and that's most of our stops, but the second one will actually involve some town collaboration, striping, so that you can actually see where the stop is. And then the third, and this is only 2 or 3 stops, actually involves some pretty significant infrastructure improvements to bring the stops up to ADA codes. So things like bringing the curb out, building a sidewalk. That's a little further down the line. But we have a phased-in approach. There's an MOU between the T and the town. So it's a very well orchestrated process, and I'm very proud of it. It's been 2 years in the making, and thanks to Town Manager Faizan for also being part of that and leading the charge. And the last thing I just wanted to update you on is that, as promised, our committee did complete a very thorough accident report crash data examination, and we provided this analysis. This is nothing new. It turns out actually consultants did this through the Complete Streets process. So we have a prioritization plan which already outlines this, but it was kind of good for us to dig our hands in as well to really have proof of where are the hot spots, where are the danger hot spots around our town, where can we address most effectively, get the biggest bang for our buck, anything from creating a sidewalk to putting up a speed limit sign, bringing out a curb, just putting up a sign. So there's no big surprises in here, but we have the intersections of Crest and Revere, McGee's Corner, and Revere, Pleasant, Maine. And our accident rates are increasing, so that's something to be cognizant of as a Complete Streets community, as a community with lots of children, lots of seniors wanting to invest in walking and active lifestyle. So I'll send this to you via email as well, and maybe we can do a more thorough presentation. I wanted to print out a copy for everyone, but I had printing issues at this little co-working space downtown while I do some printing. He's not here, I would give him a hard time about that. But so there's just 4 copies, and I'll send it via email as well. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else wish to be heard on the public comment?
Yes, please. Thomas Grady Riley, Precinct 5. And last Friday, I did send an email to the council, to the planning board, and to some interested neighbors around the center. I felt the town council should have adhered to the May 2018 neighborhood petition that had been indefinitely postponed at the January 15 town council meeting. The petition addressed the 2014 zoning regulations and center business district development relative to building density, parking, building height, and side and rear building distances from residential properties. I and 49 other signers of that petition had requested that the petition be addressed within 90 days as outlined in the town charter. Only Councilor Juan Corey voted not to postpone the petition and address the outlined issues. I bring up the charter because this is the law of the town that my husband Tom Riley, Dick Dimes, Councilors Juan Corey and Lettieri, Dick Gill, Joe Farino, Dave Hubbard, Mike Carney, and former Councilor Sanford worked diligently over a long period of time to create. So over the past few months, I began to feel that we are left with the possibility of repealing and or amending the zoning when they had a building plan. I was not comfortable with the kind of fix it as you build it, and that's my term, proposal as center business projects unfold. It seems that Villa Avenue might be a case in point, or fix it as you build it. I also had great concern about the implications for future residents, already existing small businesses, and future developers who were looking for more definitive zoning and building regulations as they came into town to try to construct something. I'm pretty sure the current site plan goes by the newly passed July 2014 zoning for the Center Business District. On Saturday, March 30th, our good precinct councilor, Pete Christopher, explained how there were two petitions before the council, one requesting keeping the new 2014 zoning, and our May 2018 petition addressing need to amend any building density, parking height, and side and rear distances from any proposed center development. Voting for one would in essence knock the other out, Pete explained. But he also did relate, however, that to my concern of the fix it as we build it with what he termed building the plane as we're flying it. And Councilor Christopher did assure me, however, that the council voted 2 meetings ago to allocate $30,000 for consultants to reopen the master plan and take a more comprehensive look at the zoning plan. And just yesterday, our good council president, Ron did say to me that that the council was currently addressing through the town manager's office a complete review of the July 2014 CBD Center Business District zoning changes. And he shared my concerns and frustrations at time and assured me that it was a high priority with him, and the councilor, Pete Christopher, was working diligently on this issue. So I want to thank both precinct councilor Christopher and the council president for responding. I trust the consultants will come up with some specific recommendations that are put in writing. We, the neighbors of the Center Business District, trust that this consultation process will positively address our concerns about center building density, height, parking, and side and rear distances between multi-unit dwellings and residential properties. If not, we again request that our May 2018 petition be addressed by the council. And I just want to accent too, I said this some time ago, I think last year, that we're not obstructionist. We welcome something appropriate at that intersection of Somerset Ave and Cottage Park Road, but we want it done right. We want it palatable to the neighborhood, the small businesses that already exist. And something definitive has to be in place relative to zoning when a new developer comes in. Because it's not fair to them either to not have something concrete and specific in writing relative to the zoning ordinances. But I'm also here to say that we're not going anywhere. We're still here. We trust that the new consultation plan to reopen the master plan will address in a concrete manner the concerns outlined in that May 2018 petition. And thank you for your time and consideration. I do want to add one thing. I'm just looking at this globally. I know I'm thinking of the Cambridges and the Somervilles and the Winthrops that are, smaller communities and pretty dense. And again, I just throw this out as a kind of global issue. I wonder if this same surge of development or aggressive campaign to develop, because we need the housing, this is a national issue, is taking place also in the Wellesleys and the Pride crossings of our state. And I just leave that with you to mull over. I hope it's all equitable. Thank you so much again for your kindness, for listening and your consideration.
Thank you, Donna. Anyone else wish to be heard under public comment? Hearing none, we'll close out public comment. Now, general information and recommendations. We do have some presentations this evening. The first one, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome the Winthrop U14 girls hockey team, the state champions. I had a great time last week. We went to Massport. They invited them over for a celebration and a new opening of a Bruins restaurant at Terminal A. And they got treated to meeting some of the Bruins players, past and present. And they had a lot of fun, took a lot of pictures, and I thought it was a great thing. So I thought that we would recognize them on behalf of the town council. I know the coaches are here, Mike Norris. Where are you, Mike? Dave Talent. And Rich Martino. You guys want to say anything about how great they were during this whole little tournament? How it all transpired? Very impressive.
Very small group.
Yep.
A lot of good times. And they played very well, very well.
Yeah, I guess you did.
All right, I'm going to read one citation, but the councils are also going to make a presentation. They'll call your name, but I'll read one of them. Town Council, the Town of Winthrop, Town Council citation. Be it known to all that the Winthrop Town Council hereby offers its congratulations. In this particular case, this is Angelina Catino, in recognition of the U14 Winthrop Girls Hockey State Championship. On behalf of the citizens of the Town of Winthrop and the students, past and present and future, that will remember you proudly and recognize you for your hard work, dedication, and being part of a team that can fulfill your dreams. Given the second day of April in Winthrop, Massachusetts, Ron Vecchia, Town Council President, James Lettieri, Vice President, Richard Farino, Nick LaConte, Mike Lacerdo, Heather Engman, Peter Christopher, Linda Caller, and Philip Boncory. This goes to Angelina. Where are you, Angelina? She's not here. All right. How about Fallon Hurley? Casey Peterson? Jimmy?
And I just want to say also, I'm incredibly proud of these girls and the coaching staff. It's incredible that we, in such a small town, have such. How many state championships is this for you, Butch?
That's the fifth for the
That's the fifth state championship for the girls. In a relatively short period of time. I mean, the program's been in existence about 7 or 8 years, and it's just. It's incredible the dedications these girls have and the respect they have for their coaches. They do a fantastic job, and they make us all very proud. So I have one here for Miss Talent, Lily. Congratulations. And one for Julia Holmes. And one for Mia Norris.
Heather?
Maddie Deering?
Olivia McManus.
I get to give a great one, Samantha Demento.
That wasn't even planned.
What a great niece.
Congratulations.
Abby Holmes.
And to Emma Holmes.
Once again, congratulations, team. You want to try to get a picture? You want to bring them behind us?
Walk in behind the seats.
There you go.
Coaches. Just stay sitting.
Why don't you come? Heather, why don't you come over here? Nick?
Stay sitting or
I'm gonna go down.
I think we should probably sit. Let Heather come around.
Don't be shy, go down. Peter, go that further.
I'll give you my seat.
Okay, everybody look up here. Okay, right there. Very good.
Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Jimmy?
Okay, next item on the agenda is Fire Chief Paul Flanagan for a presentation.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight, with a lot of pleasure, we're going to award one of our lieutenants an award for a life-saving action he took almost a year ago. We tried to get this done sooner. It was last May. Again, the passing of my wife was a few days after the fire. That postponed it for a while. We went through several managers. Then we went into, we had the summertime where government slows down a little bit. It was postponed for a snowstorm, convenience to the council, convenience to the fire department, but it had to get done. I'm very fortunate to be in uniform and walking around town every day. My firefighters go out, as the council knows, we run under the radar. You don't see much of us, you don't hear much of us, but our guys are out there, whether it's Narcan, picking people up off the floor, our seniors up at the Arbors. We've been to the Arbors over 800 times since they opened. Sometimes we have 2 engines there at the same time on different floors picking folks up. They all go home, take their uniforms off, and they're not really recognized in the community, whether they're in the marketplace, the meat market, or wherever. I got the luxury of walking around in a uniform 5 days a week where I get all the thank yous. Hey, Chief, tell you guys thank you, I was there. Well, we couldn't let this pass. The time was going by, and again, we have to get better at thanking our guys. Our guys drift off to other departments for various reasons. We fill the gaps, and it seems seamless, as difficult as it is. After this July, we'll have well over a third of our department that has less than 3 years on our department. We have retired hundreds of years of experience over this last little while. So we do have challenges that are facing our department, and we're just going to take time tonight to acknowledge a great effort made by Lieutenant Rich. A little about Lieutenant Rich. Lieutenant Rich was appointed to the Winthrop Fire Department September of 1986. He was assigned to my group. I was the captain of the group. My father was chief, and we used to buy all our fire equipment in South Boston. My father would always say, I'm taking Johnny Rich with me to South Boston and go to Sullivan's for a hot dog. I didn't get to go to the shows, but Johnny did. Last January, we were making phone calls. We needed firefighters to pump cellars. It was 2 below zero, wind chill at 30 below. Johnny Rich pumped cellars for 18 hours outside. Every time he came back to the firehouse, he was a little redder than the time when he left. John was appointed lieutenant in December of 2001, and he served as an acting captain several times in the department on retirements, until which time exam scores came down. I'd like to thank the town manager, town council for the time this evening to publicly acknowledge Fire Lieutenant John Rich for his life-saving actions which he performed on May 24, 2018. At approximately 06:15 in the morning, at a structure fire located at 4 Palmyra Street. At approximately 0600, Lieutenant Rich left his home to go for coffee at Dunkin' Donuts prior to going to his shift that started at 07:30. When passing Palmyra Street while driving on Pleasant, he thought he saw smoke coming from the house located at the corner of Pleasant and Palmyra. He turned his vehicle around at the corner of Pleasant and Court and verified the building fire. As he approached the building, he encountered heavy smoke and screams for help coming from the first floor. Lieutenant Rich quickly entered the first floor in very heavy smoke conditions and located Michael and Helen Lewis and led them to safety. Moments after leading the Lewises to safety, Helen Lewis returned to the property in an attempt to locate the family dog. Again, Lieutenant Rich re-entered the building, located Mrs. Lewis, and led her to safety for a second time. Upon questioning the Lewises about any other occupants in the building, Lieutenant Rich was informed that there was a gentleman, Mr. Pedro Cordano, who is here with us tonight, residing on the second floor. Lieutenant Rich banged on doors, until which time Mr. Cordano worked his way down the smoky stairs and was met by Lieutenant Rich and led to safety. Lieutenant Rich, knowing everyone was then out of the structure, he called the fire department to report the fire. Upon my arrival, I observed Engine 2 from the Pauline Street Station stretching hose lines to extinguish a fully engulfed cellar fire. The grass and shrubs outside of the house were ablaze from flames coming out of the basement windows. As apparatus from the Shirley Street Station arrived, I came upon Lieutenant Rich, found him bent over, attempting to catch his breath, with mucus coming from both his mouth and nose as a testimonial to the physical beating he took while conducting what I consider to be life-saving rescue. So tonight, we award Lieutenant Rich the Life-Saving Commendation Bar. Again, we're going to have Mr. Corandano say a few words, but first we'd like to have his beautiful fiancée, Katie Van der Linde, pin the pin on it. And just while she's doing that, the last time this was awarded, it was firefighter Boudreaux, who has since retired, firefighter Lopez, who is now Captain Lopez, on June 30th, 2013. They took a woman out of a third floor at 53 Prospect Ave. The occupant had burns over 15% of her body, but made a complete recovery. And just a side note, after the excitement of the morning, Lieutenant Rich did report to work at the beach station.
What a darkness.
I'm here tonight thanks to Johnny. That night in May, I was completely asleep, didn't realize the house was in fire, and Johnny made sure that he basically tore the door down and was screaming like I think only him can do. It was impossible not to hear him when I woke up. I couldn't even breathe, the smoke was very heavy in my floor, and thanks to Johnny I could get out. I have no words to say thank you, John. You saved my life, and thank you to the Winthrop Fire Department for having such a wonderful personnel. Thank you.
So John, 86?
86.
Did I appoint you?
Yes.
All the guys that I appointed are starting to retire.
10
But
months.
We do have a citation. We don't have it tonight, I'm sorry.
Another year.
Screwed up. We're gonna get a citation to you, and thank you so much for
You're
your
welcome.
service, and all the firefighters that are here, the first responders, we thank you for your service as well.
We also got the dog out, the chief and the guys. He was hiding behind the couch, so everybody lived. It was
That's awesome.
Make sure you have smoke detectors. That's what saved a lot of them, woke them up. So that's important.
Very good, John. Congratulations.
Chief, the guy, firefighters, anybody want to take a picture with the lieutenant?
Jonathan, come on.
think let's sit.
Come on. I guess we'll stand.
Sit, stand.
He's never retired.
Turn your bodies this way. Very good.
Thank
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Let them go. Place is gonna clear up.
Yeah. That's clear out.
That's yours.
Oh, good. Is it? It's yours now.
Okay, next item on the agenda. It's way later. Austin, I think I'll let you take the lead on this.
Sure.
So, all right, we're going to change up the order a little bit. We're going to have the town treasurer come up first due to time commitments. And like I've said with this budget process, I want to try to have a little more transparency with this and have department heads have the opportunity to talk in front of the Finance Commission as well as the Town Council. These ones get a little more television activity and things like that. So I want to give everyone the opportunity to advocate both to myself, to the Finance Commission, and to the Town Council directly as well. So beginning with that, couple 5-minute long presentations, and we will start with Monica.
Hello, everybody. Monica Ford, Treasurer Collector, for those of you who don't know me. I'm going to just review a couple of quick highlights for my department. My department's primary responsibilities include the collection of all debts owed to the town and the investment of all funds in the custody of the Treasury. We collect different types of bills. The bills that we collect include real estate and personal property, water and sewer bills, motor vehicle excise, boat excise, mooring fees, parking tickets, non-criminal violations, and all the fees collected by the departments as well. The fees collected by departments include, for example, 21D citations issued by the town clerk, the harbor master, police, and the 40U citations issued by the Inspectional Services Department. I also have the responsibility of protecting the town's interest in the collection of debts. In order to do this, I conduct once a year a tax title process for real estate taxes, a lien process for water, sewer bills, and non-criminal violations. That's also once a year. And we also mark parking tickets and motor vehicle excise taxes at the Registry of Motor Vehicles. My office is also responsible for the town resident sticker parking program, which includes resident sticker issuance, visitor placards, and 30-day temporary placards. My office is also responsible for all aspects of the municipal hearings office, which includes hearings for parking ticket appeals and non-criminal violations. In my role, I also wear the hat of town procurement officer, where I am responsible for bids and RFPs, annual contracts, contract administration, and approving all town purchase orders. I wouldn't be able to do any and all of this without my exceptional staff, who I'd like to thank tonight: Kathleen Rappa, my assistant, Michelle Balian, Patty DiBenedetto, Jennifer Reeves, Eric Doyle, and Mike DeLuiso. Couple of budget highlights. In collaboration with the CFO and the municipal hearing officer, $11,000 was moved from the municipal hearing budget office to the treasurer's department to fund the resident sticker program, and that was done because my office administers the program. So we felt that the money should all be in that one spot. An additional $7,000 was requested for this program as well because it wasn't fully funded in last year's budget. So that's the $18,000 that you'll see in the budget as an increase. And lastly, department accomplishments. Last year, we were able to implement a point-of-sale system, which allows departments to collect payments by credit cards and enables us also to log all over-the-counter transactions. We set a schedule to conduct the tailings process in a timely manner for all outstanding checks. And we were also able to set up an access database to assist with the administration of the town contracts. Goals, looking ahead to fiscal 2020, I'd like to develop written policies and procedures for the various positions in my office, develop a cash investment policy for town funds, and begin the cross-training, or continue actually cross-training of staff in my office. And that's it. Thank you.
Great.
Any questions from the council?
Council President?
Yes, sir.
So Winthrop's total revenue has gone up this last year by 4.53%, but I noticed that this department has an increased budget of 8.54%, and I'm wondering, why is this department getting a disproportionately large increase in the budget? What's the thinking behind that?
I defer to the CFO, Anna Friedman.
The primary really only meaningful increase in the treasurer collector's budget is related to the funds that are just being moved over from the municipal hearing office. So it's not necessarily a net increase to the bottom line. It's just sort of reallocating where the funding is appropriated from the municipal hearing office to the treasurer collector's budget, just to reflect where the actual administration of the parking sticker program is occurring. But if you were to take that out, I think the percentage would be quite low in terms of an increase.
So it sort of has to do with the increased scope that the department is dealing with.
Yeah, it's actually sort of just recognizing what they're already doing in terms of appropriating the funding there to just recognize that the work is occurring in that department. It's just reallocating the money from one department to another.
Thank you. Thank you,
Anyone
Councilor.
else?
Just on the point of sales, the system that you installed, is there any cost to the constituents or the citizens of the town when they use it?
There's no cost to the town for the service. There's cost to the citizens. There's a credit card fee of 2.95% and a 25-cent e-check fee, which actually right now is being absorbed by the town.
Does the town get any of that money from the 3% or whatever it is?
No.
From the credit card
No,
company?
that
Nothing?
goes right to the credit card company.
Anybody else?
I see that you want to develop a cash investment policy for our town funds. Where are they now? What are we doing with them now?
Right now, we're investing in money market accounts, in high-yield investments that are mandated by state law where we can invest our money. So what I want to do is look at, there are a couple of companies out there that advise municipalities as to investment funds. A couple of companies like Rockland Trust is one, Bartholomew and Company, they assist municipalities to invest long-term.
Anyone else? No? I have a question. Do you feel that you have all the tools necessary, that your office is up to date on services that we can provide to the citizens relative to the collection of fees? In other words, I know I go online and check the town website to pay water bills and so forth. Are we on par with other communities? Are we behind? Are we ahead in your estimation?
We are at a good place right now. We are doing the same thing that other cities and towns are doing, especially the surrounding communities. We're using the same actually software that other communities are using. For example, right now the online system is City Hall Systems, and there's no fee to the town for their software. Mm-hmm. So we have a huge cost savings by using them. But I mean, you're able to go online and pay all your bills. The one thing that I do want to look at, I mean, there's always room for improvement. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to, in the future, have people be able to go online and maybe get their tax information for previous years. Right now, for example, this is tax season, so we have a lot of people calling into the office asking for tax information because they're doing their taxes.
Mhm.
But I mean, my goal is to always improve the online so people are able to log on and do that kind of thing.
Right. So the only additional cost to a consumer, if they go online to pay a whatever bill, is when they use a credit card. If they use a checking account, it's the same.
That's
There's no
a
extra
checking,
fee.
well, right, a checking account's a 25-cent fee, but the town right now is paying for that. The 25-cent fee.
Thank you.
I see that
Councilor.
we have $18,000 in the budget for associated with the parking sticker program. And I know if you go online right now, that's currently free. So how much in this budget is the town recouping on the overall program? And would you suggest maybe us trying to make up, to at least make that a zero line in the budget?
So I think I'm going to defer to Iana to help with that.
Yeah, so the budget currently, the FY20 budget proposes that the town attempt to better recoup the funding that the town is absorbing for paying online for the parking stickers. So right now, my understanding is that it's free for resident parking sticker when you purchase it online. I believe it's $5. It's $5 in person. However, when those stickers are purchased online, the town right now is paying for those convenience fees and charges that the company is charging back to the town to process that. So this proposal, and this is not something that we can change unilaterally on our end, but would suggest that in order to sort of have that sort of program be self-sufficient, that a reduced fee of maybe $3 be paid if you purchase online. So that would just cover what the town's actually paying on its end to process the sticker for the residents that are purchasing the sticker online. With that would make the program self-sufficient from our estimates in terms of not sort of passing on that cost back to the town.
Anyone else?
I just want to quickly say that, Monica's budget is always, if anything, short funded. If you take out the redistribution today, it's 3%. And she's always done more with less, and I commend her for that and thank her for her efforts.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Monica.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Next up, veterans, and I'm actually gonna let Rose sit up here by herself.
Just want to say that veterans for the council's budget is on page 95.
Give me a little more space.
Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. For those who don't know, I'm Roseanne Triofti Mazzucchelli, Veteran Services Director for the town of Winthrop. So I'm passing out a packet. I went on the Department of Veteran Services website and I pulled a comparison of cities and towns related to veteran services and what other veterans agents' budgets are. And as far as salary, they range from 58 to 120. So I'm far below that. I did ask for an increase of 21,000 for my department. Most of these veterans agents, in fact, all of them in the comparison chart, have either a part-time or a full-time veteran assistant. I don't. I bring one of my kids in to volunteer for me when I'm not here. I use senior helpers. I have the school kids, the confirmation kids to come in when I'm not here. And a day like today where I was with a veteran who was on Chapter 115 at his comp and pen exam because he didn't want to be there by himself, in Worcester, my office was empty. So no one covers my office. My son wasn't available, and so I had to close the door. Also, I'm mandated to have a vehicle, and I take care of that on my own. I do receive a small auto stipend. I'm also mandated to have a cell phone. I answer calls on the weekends, as well as during the week. In fact, Sunday night I was at a veteran's home who's in serious distress, and I'm trying to get him some assistance now. He's a recently returnee from Afghanistan. So in the packet as well is a 2014 census of veterans in Massachusetts. It's up now, it's higher now due to all of the drawdown and the veterans that are coming home. And I'm seeing more and more post 9/11 veterans in my office. When I first started, I saw a lot of Vietnam veterans. An average claim takes, just to start, about 2 hours. Last year I filed over 200 claims. And that brings in every month to the town of Winthrop, to veterans and their surviving spouses or dependent children, over $300,000 that they are using and spending in Winthrop. My training budget went down because Department of Veteran Services now pays up front for one of the training, where before we would have to get reimbursement. The town gets reimbursed with Chapter 115, 75%, and for the flags, about a year and a half out. I have a new authorizer, and she's questioned all of us. I'm not the only one that's being questioned. There are a number of veterans agents that are being questioned. So my son came in and made over 6,000 copies of all my Chapter 115 folders, and by the end of this week, she will get all of those copies to go through, because she's questioning some of my deductions. I asked for a full-blown audit to get that. I'm low in comparison to what I'm supposed to be for Chapter 115 because I do my due diligence. I have several people on work programs. I get them jobs. I automatically put veterans in for their claims. If widows are authorized to claim, then I put them in for it, and hopefully they get it. So I do my due diligence in trying to get veterans off of Chapter 115 benefits, because the Chapter 115 benefit is not a lot of money. It's a stipend to help them live. Receiving VA benefits is much more beneficial to them for their well-being. Okay, I do a lot of counseling. Is a job description from 2001 the Department of Veteran Services put out, and then I put my own job description of what I added to it. I also attend funerals, and I do a lot of intakes at home visits or in hospitals. So I've added a lot to it, as well as the monthly food bank, where we serve over 75 families every month, and tomorrow's food bank day. So I work closely with my counterparts in Council on Aging and Public Housing. Disabled veterans moved to the top of the list for public housing, and in the last year, I've placed probably a dozen veterans in that situation in public housing, emergency housing. So I work very closely with my counterparts, and we have a very good relationship. So part of my goals for next year is to spend a day in both the senior housing and a day at the senior center with veterans. I do a lot of outreach. I do a lot of public speaking engagements. We do a veteran show maybe once a month, where we showcase a different veteran. Last month it was Delbrook Binns at Tuskegee Airport. So I'll entertain any questions.
So Rose, how has your office evolved in the years that you've been on there, in terms of part-time, full-time, in terms of, you mentioned the fact that there used to be a car, and I can remember that the agent used to have a car. Have our services been cut back?
No, our services are even better because I'm here about 75 hours a week. Average. So I'm present. If somebody can't get me in the office, they can get me on my cell phone. And I provide my own car because the town didn't have a vehicle for me. I've occasionally used the DPW trucks to go pick up my food because I didn't have somebody to pick up my food with my little car. So Steve has been very gracious in letting me use a DPW truck to go pick up the food.
So you're here 70 hours a week, but are you on the books as part-time or full-time?
No, I'm full-time, 35 hours a week.
Okay. Any other questions?
So just to let people realize, when Rose came on, I think we were paying claims of about 30-odd thousand a year,
Right.
sometimes 20,000, sometimes 35. And now, because of her diligence, we're up in around $100,000 a year that deserving veterans are getting assistance that they need. And 75% of that does come back. It does take a while, but 75% of that does come back to the town, so thank you.
No, thank you. It's our veterans deserve it. I'm a veteran myself. I mean, you have to be a veteran to be in this job. I also get certified every 3 years. I take a state test every 3 years. And our veterans do deserve it, and they deserve a lot more. And Winthrop is unique because 8 to 10% of our population are veterans, are surviving spouses. So this year for Memorial Day, we are honoring 2 veterans, Mr. Porter, who was a policeman, and Honorable Ralph Sirianni. He was a former POW, so those are the 2 memorial dedications for this year. Also, in the last 2 years, I've gotten 2 grants to take care of our monuments. They were matching grants, but I applied for the Historical Commission, the state one, and we were able to fund those, and they had never been repaired before. So, and Mr. Freno was on my committee, and then he got off my committee. So he was a part of that where we honor our veterans. So, anything else?
All right, Rose, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
All right, next up is Human Resources with Stacy.
Page 49.
All right, I'm going to be really quick. As you guys can see in the budget book, I have a small budget, which is balanced. I understand the constraints of the budget this year. I have no asks. We're going to be working within our budget. Some of the stuff that I've been working on since Austin has come in as town manager, he's really recognized my position a lot more than this town has recognized it since I've been hired. He's given me the opportunity to really shine and show what I was hired to do. And we're working together in redoing all of our current policies and procedures. We're picking away at them, little by little. As time changes, we have to change these policies. Different things come up, and we have to make sure that we, curtail to all of the changes that are going on. We also are working on getting everything as much as possible online. In the past 2 years, I've gotten all of our hire paperwork, all of our budget benefit paperwork online so that new hires can come on and print out their own onboarding paperwork. People can print out any enrollment forms they need. Right now, we have open enrollment starting tomorrow. So I've put on my webpage all of our rates. I left FY19 up and put FY20 up so that they can see the difference. All of the GIC changes the forms every year, so all those new forms are up as well. This was all, foot traffic in getting all of this done in the past, and having it up online has been a huge help because of course, it's the schools as well. It's all active employees, both school and town, and all retirees, both school and town. So retired teachers and retirees from the town as well. And they find it much easier being able to get all of this, just going onto the town website and getting it all. Austin and I have also talked about moving forward with even more online stuff for people applying so that I can have an automatic online tracking of candidates that are coming in. We're also fixing up our procedures for, as you know, we adopted 100B, and we already have some retired firemen that are benefiting from that. And since it's new to all of us, we're making sure we are putting together procedures to keep it structured. Other than that, that's it for my department. If you guys have any other questions.
Thank you, Stacy.
Counselor?
Thank you, Stacy, for a good presentation. I think it's important to realize, and I'm guessing Councilor McCarthy might have a question on this budget, so just to beat him to the punch, you'll see a big increase in this budget, but it's to fully reflect the salaries that are fully paid by the town now. There had been in the past a shared process with the schools that the town has taken on the responsibilities of that, so that's why you see a 40% increase. It's nothing added, nothing new. It's more that we're taking on the responsibilities that had been shared with the schools.
Anyone else? Nick, you have a question?
Well, I'm just I am kind of curious that, going back to that benchmark of 4.5% increase in revenue for the town for the year, but we're increasing this department by 44.67%, and permanent employee costs from fiscal year 18 has gone from $37,000 a year approximately to $105,000 approximately in fiscal year 20. And it seems like we're taking on some additional scope from the school department, but what kind of additional benefits can the people of Winthrop expect to see from this increase?
Well, I'm going to tell you that as far as the salary, I will defer to Austin, but I can tell you that as far as my job description, when I was hired, it was 50-50. And then last year, right after the budget was approved, the school had taken back from their portion of that, and I believe that's what you were explaining as that comes in. But the town still fully services the school. So I'm still servicing the school 100%, whether it's benefits. I still oversee the unemployment for the schools. I still oversee the workers' comp for the schools. And it's something that it's I know that people don't understand HR completely, but I'm just as 24/7 as my coworkers. And I still am very heavily involved. But like Jim had explained, it's not so much that it's an added benefit because there's so much more money coming in. It's just because it used to be split and it's no longer split 50-50. And I don't know if you wanted to.
It's just a shift over from the school finance again.
Do you have any assistants, Stacy?
Yes, Christine Dassaw. She came in at, she's been here a year now, and she's been a huge help. When I first interviewed in Winthrop and I came in from the public sector, I had asked in becoming an HR director if I was going to have some sort of benefits coordinator to help me with that aspect of it, because school and town is a lot of people for one person. The budget couldn't afford it at that time, and I kind of pushed for it, and I was lucky enough that it was approved from you guys. And she came in and she has made things unbelievably more easier and workable and efficient. I couldn't have any department without her.
So that salary in the book is for both of you?
It is both of us, and the school does still contribute a portion of hers, not 50%.
Thank you.
And just to let everybody know that there's over 400 employees that we have 1.5 people basically taken care of. And there's a lot of, I mean, all anybody has to do is look at any news any day and you'll see all kinds of issues. And we're trying to take everything possibly serious that we can do to make sure people are trained properly and everything else. And on top of taking care of retirements and insurance and the benefits and everything else, it's a lot to ask of one person to take care of 400, so, or 1.5 people, so we think.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Counselor?
I know navigating through GIC and healthcare is a nightmare. Do you service the employees with that information yourself?
I do. So the GIC holds a training every year for the coordinators that Christine and I both attended in Boston last week, the week before, I believe. And the GIC seems to change things every year, and there's always something new that, you know, it's either a form or the rates, or they now recently have changed one of the insurances. We offer 12 different insurances to everybody. Changed from New England Health to Always, and so we had to help people understand those changes. And we facilitate everybody through our office with the health insurance, school, town, retirees, school retirees. And it is a process, because sometimes it's just as confusing for us, and once we get a hold of it, we then help everybody else understand it. I also have a lot of people that come in, especially the retirees, that when they become Medicare eligible, they jump down to a whole different set of insurances we offer. So our active employees get 12 options, and then our retirees that are Medicare eligible have another, I think it's 7 supplemental choices. And we walk through all those processes too, because that involves Social Security. And that's very confusing in itself too. So we walk them through that, as well as MTRS recently, the Mass Teachers Retirement System, about 3 years ago, stopped putting everything, all changes that retirees made, whether they were coming on, coming off, or changing their coverage. And they stopped allowing me to email them or call them to let them know of these changes, and forced us to learn their system. So now I have to log into GIC to make those changes. I have to log into MTRS and know their system to make those changes. And then I have to make sure I help my team here and in payroll communicate all those changes so deductions are correct, and retirement gets those deductions as well. And it's been a huge help. It was a voluntary thing I did, that I'm also on the retirement board, and that's actually been a huge help in my position to be on the retirement board for these reasons as well.
Just one more thing, I know, you know, Stacy's explained all the stuff that she does, and it's important to realize too, for people watching at home or whatever, that you know, the school's not participating in this is kind of, this was done jointly, because the school has many challenges, which we all know, and, you know, never really gets the funding that we'd like to be able to give them, so we try to do what we can, and the schools help in many respects with what Stacy does with their own human resource. You know, superintendent takes on a lot personally, and we thank her for that, but this is in no way a slight to the schools that they said we don't want to pay. This was a joint effort in a way that we felt it could help us in some small regard, give the schools some additional funding, so we chose to take it on personally, and we agreed, both of us agreed, so thank you again.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Stacy.
All right, next up, Steve Roach, with assessing, excuse me.
Assessing, page 42, guys.
Visual up here, slide I'd like to focus on, but good evening, councilors. Steve Roach, the Deputy Assessor. So I'd like to focus on this, but first, I'd like to go through some of our accomplishments. In addition to the daily operations of the assessing department, we did commit over 15,000 motor vehicles and 1,200 boats. We reviewed over 600 building permits, resulting in $290,000 in new tax dollars. Upon the direction of the Board of Assessors, we processed, reviewed, inspected, and reported on all the real and personal property abatement applications, addressed all Department of Revenue mandated directives assigned under the FY18 recertification. We're continuing the 9-year cyclical reinspection program as mandated by the DOR, and that's part of our budget as well. We oversaw the interim year adjustment process and successfully certified our values. We conducted the tax classification hearing. So that's what we did for this year. And you can see that, those are real tax dollars. We had over $20 million in new growth value. That's a record in this town. That was last year, about $290,000 in tax dollars. And you know what? We're going to continue to do that. Our budget is requesting a little bit more money so that we can have folks out in the field. We determined that every dollar that we spend for consulting, we get a return of $10. So this is money well spent for the town. As I'm sure you know, Winthrop really has been discovered. We see the property values up. It's a great place to live and raise a family. And I truly think that we're going to see continued growth, over this year. And that's why we're looking for a little bit more money for the, in the inspectional part of the budget.
Just again, to explain that, we look at the consulting, looking at, increasing from 29 to 34.
Yes.
And that, if you look at the new growth that is brought into the town, a lot of that is attributed to the fact that we're able to go out there and do inspections and do what we do. So it's a small increase for what it's bringing back, netting back to the town. And we thank you for
It's good. It's a real investment in the town. It really is.
It's better than a CD.
Yes.
Anyone else? Questions?
Great. Thank you, councilors.
Thank you, Steve.
Next up, Council on Aging, Kathy.
Page 92.
Hi,
Kathy.
my name is Kathy Dixon. I'm the Director at the Council on Aging, and I will be brief. So just to update you on the flood that we had in January with the sprinkler pipe that burst. We are making a lot of improvements. We had some electrical work done this past Friday. We're going to be doing some floor replacement because all the floors were damaged, actually, but I couldn't keep the senior center closed to replace all the floors because that would just be too long. So we're going to have to try and do it room by room. So we're working on that, and the building maintenance director is helping me with all of that. But anyway, so my budget, I did not request any more money this year, and I'm very confident that we can have as great a year next year as we had this year. We're growing rapidly. We have a program that we instituted a couple of years ago called My Senior Center, and it gives us great statistics so that, so that I can tell you that we had almost 5,000 seniors participate in all the programs this year. But it's more than just Winthrop. It's Winthrop, East Boston, Revere, Saugus, all the surrounding communities. And, we're just doing as much as we can to make sure that the seniors have someplace safe and fun and engaging and challenging to go to every day. And that's what we do.
Kathy, the senior, years ago the senior center was the place to go to, do some knitting and dancing and stuff like that. But you guys get involved in a lot of other things in terms of, health-wise, in terms of people that are home, or whether they're, they may be involved with hoarding in their homes and stuff.
Oh,
Don't you
yes.
have-
Well, we have an outreach coordinator, and Matt Rhodes, and he's great. He's also the assistant director. So whenever we get calls, neighbors call, families call, he goes out into the homes to see exactly what it is that needs to be done.
So you're
Whether
always working with the police and maybe the
Oh,
fire
yeah.
department and stuff
Oh,
like
yes. Actually, with all the town departments. We all work together so that anyone who needs help in this town, no matter how old they are, they get assistance by somebody within the town departments.
The cost of all of the damage from the sprinkler, was that covered pretty much by insurance, or?
Other than a deductible.
Yeah. So they're still working some stuff out, because now there's some issues with the floors, but it looks like it's around $160,000 of damage was done to the building. So it was a lot.
It was a lot. And the fire department, thank God for Paul Flanagan and the fire department, because I panicked a little because we were there when it happened.
Yeah.
And that water came like a tsunami, and I just couldn't believe it. We had to run out, grab our stuff and run. And the guys were there within, I don't know, it seemed like 25 minutes, but it was probably 2. It was probably 2.
Gallons, we get gallons of it.
Yeah. So they helped save from a lot of damage because they immediately started to push the water out the doors and everything. So that was a big help. But there still was naturally a lot of damage. We had a lot of wooden furniture that was within the flood. So, but that'll all be replaced eventually.
Okay. It was a frozen pipe that caused it?
Sprinkler, yes, sprinkler pipe. It blew the pipe and the lights right out of the ceiling. So thank goodness it was the day after a holiday and there was no school that day. When there's no school, we are closed for all activities, so there were no seniors there because it would have been tragic if there were any seniors that were in that room at the time.
Any other questions, Council?
Again, this is a great job of the budget. We're actually down from last year. It's actually a 1% decrease from 2019's budget. It's incredible to think that about 10 years ago, we were sitting probably in this room deciding whether to close the senior center because we were in such a dire financial condition. And luckily the town responded and we were able to keep it open. And I think Kathy would be the first to say she had some incredibly big shoes to fill with the passing of Nancy. And we couldn't have asked for a better person to take it over. So thank you for
Thank
the
you.
work you do.
Thank you.
Good job, Kathy.
Thanks.
There's a lot of savings in the energy and maintenance budgets, and I just wanted to know if that was, are we just estimating that we're less than we did last year, or is that due to actual energy improvements that we've made to the building?
Do you want to answer that, Hannah?
So the electricity savings are related to some electrical work that was done this year that was a one-time work that occurred, so it doesn't need to be repeated next year, so those are savings that the budget can realize for FY20. And the maintenance is related to a new vehicle that was afforded this year, and so the maintenance costs are expected to be less. And Kathy, is there anything else you can think of that? Those are the big contributors.
Right, but that just made me think of the new van that we're going to get that I forgot to mention. We got a grant for that, so we should be getting that at the end of May. So I'm really excited, brand new, a little smaller, 8 passenger as opposed to 12. But when we figured out that that's all we need right now. And we don't always have, we really hardly ever have 10 passengers at one time. So the 8 was sufficient, so it's gonna save us some money in that respect.
Phil?
Do you still have an active Friends of the Council?
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
are they helping to supplement some of the things that you do?
Yes, what has happened in the past is they always had to pay for things that went wrong with the building. Fortunately, we don't seem to be in that position anymore, which is great. So now they help subsidize fun things, entertainment and trips, which is what they were actually formed for, yeah, so,
So it was good.
yeah.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ken.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Now to cover a couple departments is Tangi.
Which one are we doing first?
Ferry,
First.
MIS.
So the ferry is 122.
Good evening, my name is Tangi Safuni, and I'm just going to take a couple of minutes just to review our season 3 of our ferry and give you some projections on what we want to accomplish for season 4. So just to highlight, last year we had 11,959 bookings and 20,163 passengers who went on the vessel between the months of April 23rd and November 30th. That's an uptick from the year prior. The year prior, we had 6,071 bookings and 11,899 passengers. So we did increase. We did increase a lot from season 2 to season 3. Our total ticket sales was 131,458 for season 3. The year prior to that was around 96,854. We did receive subsidies from the MBTA of $161,000 for service in Quincy. We also received a subsidy from Mass DEP of $150,000 with Chapter 91 funds for service in Seaport. This past year, we added a lot more, well, I should say 2 more commuting runs in the morning as well as in the evening. We dropped the commuting rates from $8.50 to $6 during the commuting hours. And on our schedule, we reflected what the commuting hours by highlighting them in red. And it was open to the public. It didn't matter if you were actually commuting. Anyone who got on the vessel paid $6 during those commuting hours. And we saw a big uptick. Our usage went up because it was more appealing for people at that rate. We increased our twilight cruises. We got a little creative, and we had about 3 different wine tasting cruises. We did acoustic sundown cruises. I think those were on Thursday evenings, and those did really, really well. We did a lot of community involvement and community outreach. I know that we had the seniors, and we had senior lunches from Winthrop as well as Swampscott come out. We also did we worked with the school department, and we had some field trips out to Spectacle Island. And we docked this year at the New England Aquarium for only $3,000 a year versus going to the Long Wharf, I should say Rose Wharf, for $10,000. So there was a cost savings there. And our number of charters increased over the course of season 3. Season 4. Our season 4 is beginning April 22nd of this season. It's also going to be closing out our fiscal year of 19. So my target is to bring in $50,000 worth of ticket sales between April and the end of June, which is attainable. We've done that in the past. Our budget basically is level funded. It's basically what we stated last year is what we have going on this year, $460,000 worth of expenses, and we need to bring in $460,000 to cover the expenses via subsidies and ticket sales. That's what we did this past year, and this is what we're projecting for this year. The good thing is that we did send out an RFP because we're looking at this entire entity and trying to see how efficient we can be year over year. One of them last year was saving on dock leases, and we were able to save about $7,000 last year on that. This year we looked at our fuel, we shopped around. We have a new contractor, and we're going to be saving about $30,000 this year in fuel. The spring schedule's been approved. We've posted that. It's been out on social media. I'm printing about 1,000 of them this week, and those will be given out to the aquarium, Seaport, Quincy, and all throughout Winthrop. And you know, we've partnered very well with the entire Seaport. Fallon Companies has really embraced us, and they market us throughout a lot of their businesses, and they're both residential and commercial. And the New England Aquarium highlight us on their website, and they also paid for all of the signage around the Harbor Walk for us last year, and that's up again this year. So that's what we have going for the ferry. And moving on to MIS.
Any questions on the ferry?
Oh, I apologize, yeah.
That's
Any
okay.
questions? Yes.
Council President, so I'm wondering, what was the net cost last season to Winthrop taxpayers to operate the ferry?
0.
And that's dependent on some subsidies that we get, right, that you were saying from both the MBTA and the DEP? What's our level of assurance that we will get those same subsidies this year?
We already have a contract with the MBTA, and they've already confirmed that we would be receiving $161,000 for service in Quincy. Okay, so that's a 1-year contract. The Mass DEP is money that is put in a Chapter 91 account that is funded by all of the developers along the waterfront, and that account grows. It's how they obtain a permit. When they obtain a permit, they have to state that they are going to be supporting the waterfront. Right now, our vessel is the only vessel who services the seaport to get people back and forth. And so I think at our seaport meeting the other day, at our water transportation meeting the other day, there's a little over $6 million that are in that account. We asked for 150 last year. We are going to ask for 150 this year. We are going to get the support of the state as well as the city of Boston to get us that money, because it's not tax-paying money. It's in there with the Chapter 91 funds.
And given all of these things, are you confident that this coming season there will also be no net cost to Winthrop taxpayers for the ferry?
Well, yeah. Right now we do have some certified free cash, correct? Yeah. Retained earnings.
It's about $105,000 in retained earnings for the ferry.
Thank you.
You said you partnered with Boston and some of the other entities around the South Shore and North Shore. Have you reached out to the national parks, the Harbor Alliance, or the
Boston Harbor now?
Friends of the Harbor Islands?
Yeah, Boston Harbor now has also partnered with us and completely embraced us. They market us in their newsletters and on their website every single year for free. They allow us to go to Spectacle Island on Saturdays. They just reached out to me last week. We're considering taking 20 people out to all 3 islands to do a tour. So they have been a very good partner to us. Right now we just go to Spectacle on Saturdays, but yes, we do.
Council? Well, I have to give you credit for spearheading probably the most controversial budget item that we've had for the past 4 years. Truth be told, I've never believed it's best for Winthrop to be in the ferry business, but we're doing it now that it's not costing us money, and I think you could take, if not all the credit, a huge part of that. But can you just tell us about possible ideas that we might have to partner with, or is it possible to partner with Encore Hotel and Casino, and how that might affect the ferry?
Right now, they have a contract with a private company to do service to, I think they named 2 different locations. I know the Logan Airport was one of them, as well as, what was the second one, David? I think it was Lovejoy, or was Love and Rose. Yeah, it was Lovejoy and Rose. I have met with them a couple of times myself to see if there could be some sort of a partnership. This was before they awarded the RFP out there. There definitely can be. There's going to be a high demand to be able to use water transportation to get there, because the traffic is going to be really bad, so they're really investing in this. And what we would do is just be able to, they have provided to us what the schedule is going to be and where the locations are going to be. And what we can do is actually bring our vessels to those locations, where then people could actually get off our vessel and get onto their smaller boat that can clear the bridge and take you into the casino. And right now, that's where we stand. Now, next year, if they see that the demand is there, they might come out to us and say, is there something that you can do for us? But right now, our vessel can only clear that bridge on certain tides. So
Being self-sustaining is absolutely key, and it's incredible that we're able to do that right now. And we're still limited having one boat, and potentially, an issue we could have with that one boat and how it can affect us. But thank you so much for leading this debate.
Anyone else? Good job.
Thank you. So the second thing would be MIS.
51.
51. Right now, it's just 1.5 of us. I mean, it's, when it comes especially to the personnel and permanent employee line item, half of my salary is paid out of MIS. And David Lapison, who works for me full-time, his salary is paid out of the personnel line item. I did have a part-time position funded for this past fiscal year. I posted that position a couple of times, and it was very hard to bring somebody in for the amount that we were paying at only 19 hours a week. The individual that we did have employed, I couldn't get him full-time, so we lost him. And we did okay. We processed over 3,000 tickets over this past year with 1.5 of us, 1.5 people, so that is pretty good. But the turnaround times could be much better, and we understand that. And, you know, looking at our budget, and I knew our budget was going to be tight, and I was trying to figure out how we could do this more efficiently. I knew I was going to be in the same boat. If I go and ask for just maybe even $1,000 more, I didn't know if I was going to get it. So if I asked for $27,000, I'm still trying to get a part-time person in this role, and that's very difficult. So, you know, reaching out to Retrofit to see what they could do for us, they did come back to us and offer us $18,500 a year. We could have a help desk, and this option would be something that would be open to all the public safety as well as all town departments, and they would have access to this help desk that would be remotely. It would be remote, but it would be Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So it gives us a little bit more hours, a couple of more days, and it's actually more affordable than what I was asking for in the budget last year. So that's one difference. And this year, I mean, we were rolling out that archive social software, which helps us retain all of our social media pages. I know that Austin asked for some additional money to be doing some upgrading to our website. With Retrofit, we are rolling out some new things that we're excited about when it comes to cybersecurity. And so that's going to cost us a little bit more money, and so you'll see that, and that will be under, I think we put that under licensing. We also now have the OpenGov software that we didn't have last year, so that would also be reflected under our annual licenses. So that's some of the differences. Oh, it's not under there? Oh, you do. I apologize. I thought it was in there, so I apologize. I guess it's not in there. And there's really not many changes to the MIS budget other than under the licensing for some of the new software that we rolled out.
Questions? No? Okay.
Thank you.
One more. EB Newton.
Yes. So basically, with the EB Newton,
134.
everything remains status quo. You know, we have a full house. I have one room available in the basement that we had finished for our past town manager that is available. But right now we house the Board of Health, Historical Commission, the Cultural Council, the Art Association. We have a number of nonprofit organizations there. We have a couple of photographers, School of Performing Arts, Community Christian Center, CASA. So it's getting a lot of action. We use it almost every single night for meetings. So there's a rotating door there. I think a lot of different people outside of even the town, some, you know, friends of Winthrop Beach and friends of Belle Isle, they use it a lot. People use it for auditions, for small theater. So it's getting a lot of activity. And it is a revolving fund, and right now there is no taxpayer money going into it. It's basically covered with the rent roll. So that's how we pay all of our utilities, insurance, custodial services, anything it takes to maintain the building.
Okay. Questions? Richard?
Yes.
I noticed that you allocated about $6,000 for maintenance, which it's a big building. It's showing its age and wear and tear. It's over 100 years old now. And I know the clock tower is in dire need. And I did,
Oh, you found it?
well, I got it from the state.
Okay.
I inquired. So So
Thank you.
if it isn't, if you need a second one, in case you lose that one.
Thank you.
There's another one. And I'd like to see, at some point, us address it, and maybe it doesn't need a full restoration, but it does need some TLC.
I agree.
And it is a focal point, and it's part of the historic district, and I think we should do its due diligence to actually have it looking good and be a focal point in the town instead of something that looks deteriorated and decrepit.
I agree. I do know it was on the capital improvement plan for the last 5 years. It just hasn't made it up to the
Well,
top.
this report was from 2002, and nothing's been done to it since then. So it's almost 20 years.
I do know that the facilities director did go up there, and I do know that he did provide a quote on how much it was going to cost to fix that at the same time that we were doing this cupola over here at the town hall, and it was a few $100,000.
Is that to get the clock fixed?
And
running?
paint, and scrape it, and paint it, and
But not to get the clock going.
I think it was to get the clock.
I think it was. I think this report will show about 100,000
125, I think it was, yeah.
and about 200,000 now to restore it.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe I'll make the jump, and I'll get to the top of the capital plan.
Any other questions?
KG, when we're collecting rent from the different people that are renting, they're not, of course, our own groups that are using it.
Yep.
Our town groups, are we getting a fair market value price, so much a foot?
No.
We're not?
No.
Is there a reason why we're not?
I think that a lot of the people that are in that building, and there's not many private places. I mean, I think there's like one private business, and then there's the psychotherapist in the basement who's actually, I think, paying a lot for her little space. She's never there. And then the photographer. But everything else is basically nonprofit. And they provide a service to Winthrop. So we're kind of just respecting the fact that they give back to the community. And so we're giving them affordable rents. But it is enough rent to cover all of the cost and continue like the next year. We don't, we're never in a deficit. We've never been in a deficit yet, knock on wood, but we haven't. So it's working for now.
Yeah, but if we got more rents, it would, what the market would carry, we might be able to put more into fixing the things that need to be fixed.
Because I think there's that balance there. I mean, you're talking about CAPIC and CASA, you're talking about kids only, you know, there's that balancing act.
Yeah. I think I'm talking about the nonprofits.
There's not too many.
Yeah, there's the Community Christian Center and CASA, CAPIC,
No,
FK.
that are profit.
Oh, right.
For-profit.
Oh, no, there's not. No, there's only a photographer and
Mostly
the
no.
psychotherapist in the basement who's never there, and School of Performing Arts.
Unless you want to put your office there, we could charge you a full rate.
Yeah, but I can't
There's
fit
one.
that room.
There's one in the basement if you want me to.
I can't fit in that room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Public hearing. We're going to continue this public hearing that was started at the last meeting, to transfer $80,000 from Fund 965, Building Maintenance Stabilization Fund, to Fund 989, Old Middle School Property and Utility Bills. Anybody wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Karen Chavez, Precinct 2. I did meet with the CFO yesterday, and I'm really not in favor of the $80,000, but I understand why it has to be done. In 2016, when the school turned that building over to the town for the FY17 budget, there was $100,000 in that budget to cover expenses. And by the building, I'm talking about middle school, auditorium, and gymnasium, not the rink. Keep the rink out of it. The following year, FY 2018, was only $50,000 put in. And this year it was $0. And for next year, it's $0. So this is going to keep going on. We're going to keep paying money into a building that's absolutely empty. And the CFO was great yesterday. I mean, she explained to me why we have to pay insurance and why we have to have utilities. But again, in my own mind, Why are we paying so much money to a building that is absolutely empty? There has to be something that can be done. We're paying a gas bill, we're paying a light bill. I understand that Sean still has part of that back, it's the old metal
Shop.
shop where he still has part of that. But most of his activities, are they not taking place, I don't know, are they not taking place in the gymnasium?
Yep.
Why can't we just move him completely out of that building into the gymnasium? Then maybe the building could be closed. Biz said to me yesterday, well, if somebody breaks into the building and they break into the elevator and the elevator's not working and they go down. Well, you know what? If the elevator's on the first floor and they break into the second floor and they get those doors open, they're gonna go down anyways, whether the elevator is working or not. So in my own mind, it's $80,000 that I feel as though can be used someplace else. You heard tonight, the veterans agent. I just wish that, and I'm not blaming the town manager, please don't even think I am. But I think something has to be done. I don't know what. Board it up, do something so that we're not paying those astronomical prices to keep a building open for nothing.
Okay. So, thanks, Karen. And to answer a few of them, the insurance now for that building is about $30,000 a year.
It's going up this year. I'm
If
sure
we
it is.
boarded it up, it would probably be $70,000 a year. It's a lot more insurance money for an abandoned building. And unless it, now it's categorized as like a semi-vacant building or whatever, but it's not abandoned. So it's about $30,000 or a little higher in insurance, and then the rest are utility costs between gas and electric for the most part. We don't disagree with your comments tonight, and we did have a finance committee where we made an amendment to that 80 to make it 60, which we feel pretty confident that will get us through the end of the year. There's different funds. It's a very convoluted way, I think, that we're addressing that middle school right now. And there's a couple of funds there's a Pauline Street, or I'm not even sure what it's called, fund, which is basically the middle school rentals and all that stuff, which is helping to offset the utility costs. And then there's the 969, what is it? 969 fund that is basically the middle school that we had funded originally in the finance, in our recommendation last year in the budget, and it got cut. Unbeknownst to us. And then this year, right now, it has a zero, but the budget isn't done yet, and I think we should not turn a blind eye to it and just say it's not going to be there because it's going to be there. As far as using the money for other purposes, with this motion, if this motion is passed, the money's coming from building stabilization. It wouldn't be able to fund salaries or anything else. So it's not that we found a pot of money that we're going to transfer over. So it's money from the building maintenance stabilization. But I think it's extremely important that we get this clarified, get the bills situated, see where the bills are coming from, who's paying for what, because I go by that middle school every night. There's basically one light on, but there is a cost to for heating the gymnasium, and I know Sean has an electric heat in there, so he's not using heat from the middle school, and there's also a boiler issue down there, and we had put in, as you well know, in Swing Space, we put in money for a new boiler down there that cost us about 60 grand. So your comments do not go unnoticed, and thank you very much, and we did make an amendment to make that a little less.
And I want to thank the CFO again for spending the time with me yesterday. I really do appreciate it.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone on the council? Hearing none, I'll close out that public hearing. Second public hearing, to appropriate $487,850, the cost of replacing lead water lines to residents throughout the town from the MWRA Lead Replacement Program. I'll call on our Director of Public Works just to give us kind of an overview.
Sure. So this is a state and federal mandate for the Safe Drinking Water Act. It's the lead and copper rule. The municipalities are being mandated to remove 7% of their known full lead line services. We currently have approximately 840 known full lead line services in the town. This will remove 100 of those. It's a 10-year, zero-interest loan from MWRA.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone on the council?
Finance Committee did meet on this tonight, and I'll go over it in my report from the Finance Committee, but like Director Callis says, this is a mandated from the state and from the federal government, and from the state and federal. And if we were not to do this, we could be fined anywhere between $75,000 and $100,000. Obviously, all the mains, I think Stephen can address, just to clarify for everybody out there, all the mains in the town.
Sure, so we get our water obviously from MWRA. The mains, we have no lead mains in the town. These are services, the connections from the main to the homes. To use this money from MWRA, we're required to remove it from the main all the way to the meter, to remove, make it a complete non-lead service.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll close out that public hearing. Correspondence, we have none. Committee reports, we'll refer to finance further down.
Sure, we'll go to finance later.
Okay. Precinct 5 neighborhood meeting?
I had a Precinct 5 neighborhood meeting last Thursday. I guess I kind of ran the gamut of things you could talk about at a neighborhood meeting like that, but it was, I think, pretty productive. We got a lot of information out, and we talked about a lot of different things, development, the airport, and it was a good meeting all around. Had a lot of people, more people than I anticipated, so it was good.
Thank you, Pete. Millerfield?
And there was
Committee.
a Millerfield meeting on March 26th. Again, the main purpose of the meeting at this point is the field house. We did discuss, there's a small, not an issue, but there was a concern brought up by Little League that if you're looking at the field from Cross Street to the left, where it abuts the Little League field, there's a section of fence that we fenced up to a certain section and then stopped, and then about 120 feet we picked it up because the Little League batting cages are there. We want to try to continue that fence to make it seamless, so that was discussed and passed. We have somebody coming in Thursday to take a look at that, to give us some bids on the fencing, as well as if you're looking at the field, there's the ticket booth, which was done by Winthrop school kids. Right to the left of the ticket booth, before the main gate, there's a 4-foot area that we want to put a fence there so we can keep those main gates closed, during after-school events and stuff like that, so we're not continuously opening that gate and dragging it along the pavement. And the majority of the meeting was, though, around the field house, and the field house is coming out great. We have started the interior electrical and plumbing. The kids from the VOC have been fantastic. We're still on time and under budget, so all is good right there.
On time for when?
On time for Labor Day.
Labor Day?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Town managers report.
Can I just
I'm sorry.
something about it? Because I'm trying to find out how much money is going to be left when you say we're on time and under budget. After that,
I think we could give you a better answer from that probably a little down the road, but we feel that we're definitely going to be within the budget parameters that were given to us.
it's going to be enough to meet our commitment to the golf club that we made.
No.
Back in the-
What commitment was that?
To rebuild what they took down.
We didn't make a commitment to the golf club. I mean, we could go over that at a subsequent meeting, but I think that we were never responded to by the golf club, and that's an open question right now that we'll discuss at a later date.
And second, I went by the field today on my way here.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a track meet going on. And
track meet?
Track meet, yeah. It was like a invitational. There were quite a few school buses there, and it was a track meet going on. But I noticed that the shot putters were off the field and throwing it on the side, but the discus throwers were throwing their discus out onto the field. And I don't know if our new field can take that.
The new field can absorb that. The shot put is in a special area. If you're right near the front, near Cross Street, there's a dirt area, or whatever it's called, sand, and it's a small fence around that we put in. The discus is on the field, and we have asked and have been told that it's okay for that to go on the field.
Because I remember when I threw the discus in college, that every time it landed, it made tents.
Well, you have to throw it more than 10 feet, probably. But we will double check that, but we did ask that.
That was the first time I've seen them out there using it, and it didn't look like it was a good idea.
Okay. No, we will ask. We did ask, though, for all the stuff that was going on down there.
That was a good one.
Let's get it.
Town managers report.
Okay, I have a few things, and then I'm going to actually bring up the assistant town manager as well to discuss a couple of items. So again, we're kind of starting these budget presentations with department heads. These will continue through the rest of the month in the month of April and into May. Street sweeping begins April 22nd. So last Friday, last full week with a Friday on it, is when it's going to begin. It goes from April through October between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m., the same day as the streets trash collection. Applications for the 2019 Senior Citizen Property Tax Work-Off Program are now available at the Senior Center, and applications are due back to the Senior Center by Wednesday, April 17th, so 2 weeks from tomorrow. In terms of the beach, per state and federal mandates, we have begun fencing off nesting sites at Euro Beach for protecting the piping plover. These required areas could be removed by early to mid-June if the hatchlings successfully fledge, which is mid-July. Excuse me. Successfully fledge, which means they can get out of the nest and fly away. If they don't survive, then the law requires we maintain the nest sites until additional chicks are able to fledge. And years past, we've had some issues with some dogs and things like that interacting with the chicks, and that has pushed off the time that we can actually take down the fencing off. So please be cognizant of that, and the cleaner we make it through the first part of this, the earlier we can kind of take down the fences. And we will be inspected by other authorities on that, so we need to make sure that everyone in town is taking collective effort towards that. Dog licenses applications were due April 1st, and residents can license their dogs at the town clerk's office. And then, Dave, if you want to come up here, to begin with, in terms of the water rate audit discussion, one avenue that I'm looking to go towards is basically having a rate structure study done, which that's when you start talking about tiers and having commercial versus residential and those types of things. I think it would be good to talk about how we come up with the rate and have the discussion of single family, multifamily, condos, those types of things. Again, that doesn't necessarily attack the total amount. It's just adding up to that amount a different way. But I'm more than happy to engage in that process. And some of the firms out there that do that are Weston & Sampson and Raffelli's and things like that. So there's a lot of good firms that do that work. And that is one avenue that I think we should pursue as a town to kind of engage with the public and start to kind of build some of this trust back that I feel like has been lost over time. And then another part of it concerns the audit with the state office.
Thank you, Austin. After a great conversation with Ms. Napoli after the budget presentation a couple weeks ago, she did reach out to them. We asked her who she spoke to at the state auditor's office to get some greater clarity on what that process might look like. I've reached out to them. We're speaking with their external affairs to get some greater clarity. What is the scope? How much does it cost? How long does it take? Who performs the audit? Some of those detail-oriented issues. So we are engaging with them to get some further information. That would be a council-required action for you to ask for the audit directly under state law. So once we get some further clarity on that and whether that's whether that's going to be the mechanism that will get us the answers that we're looking for and that the public are looking for, still remains to be determined. But once, as that part's to develop, we will bring it before you guys for some authorization and some further action after that. So speaking specifically to the CBD map issue and some of the zoning issues that have been a long-standing question, we have formed a kind of an informal working group that includes Councilor Christopher, that includes the consultants from Form and Place, the planners that we've engaged that did the previous planning activities in 2017, myself and town attorney, in order to attack the issue pretty aggressively. We think we have a good balanced approach that is responsible and can balance off the priorities of the public and the council to get this going as quickly as possible with maintaining some professional responsibility, making sure we're doing it right and responsibly and with good land use planning activities and good land use planning principles in place. We will have some further details for you. We will be engaging with the public through the planning board, having public hearings, listening to what people think. And as we go forward, we are going to develop a baseline map to see if we're going to develop a number of maps for the council's consideration and for the planning board's consideration that has things like existing use, existing, where it's going to be a recitation of what's there now and where we think our best interpretation of what the map is, based upon all the available materials that are out there. There is tons that we're trying to get through to still make sure that we can get some clarity towards this confusing issue, as well as some advanced steps where we should be, with a careful consideration being paid to those transitional zones, those boundary lines that are so important as to how that boundary will transition into other districts and how that zoning will interact with each other. So we're paying careful attention to that and working very hard. So the planners that are going to be working specifically on the map issue to develop those maps, including we're looking through all these materials, walking the district, taking pictures, doing histories. Meanwhile, town attorney and I are going to be looking at the black letter zoning to see how that lines up, if it's consistent with what the town has said that it's looking for. Some of the concerns that Mrs. Riley brought up earlier for the consideration. We'll have multiple drafts for people to consider. So we're taking a shotgun approach to attacking the problem. We're working. So we understand that this is a priority of the council and of the public, and we're working aggressively to make sure that we can get it done as quickly as possible and as responsibly as possible. Balancing off, of course, the other stated priority of the middle school. How does that interact with this overall problem? They don't operate in a vacuum, so we're trying to keep a careful attention in view through that context as well. So we're attacking it as best we can from as multiple angles as we can.
So David, how is the public, where do they get involved in this whole
So we're gonna present before the planning board. We're gonna interact. We haven't reached out to the chairman yet, but we're hoping to consolidate those processes in order to shorten the timeline and have the public be able to interact with the map, ask questions of the planners, ask questions of us, express their opinions. No final decisions will be made at the first meeting, we hope. So we're going to use that public process in order to make it more robust. Instead of if we choose to split it up and have separate public meetings outside of a formal process, it will extend out the process a little too long, and we want to try to condense it as much as possible in order to attack the problem.
So it'll be run through the planning board?
Yes.
These will be like a public hearing type of process?
Yes, that's our intention. Yeah.
Okay, we have some kind of time frame.
I don't want to. I'll have greater clarity. The working group met today. We spent 2 hours working together, working through these issues, trying to get on the same page. I don't have a firm timeline yet, and I think I'd be remiss if I gave you a timeline. I don't want to set expectations yet, but we will certainly give back to the council at that point. It's a matter of weeks, not months.
Thank you so much for addressing this and helping out a lot of the concerned citizens. I would ask that, we have 2 meetings in May, one on the 7th, one by the 21st. I would ask that no later than the 21st, that we have some sort of map in front of us that we could try to bring this to an end. So I would request that.
Sure, we'll do our earnest best to make sure that's a reality. We do have to abide by the guidelines within the zoning act as well, so that's kind of a drawn out approval process.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Sure. And David, could you just go over a little bit, aside from the issue with the zoning boundaries, could you talk a little bit more about not what the boundaries are, but what the group's plans are to do about what's allowable within the zone? Mm-hmm. As far as I know, there was a lot of concerns about the 2014 amendments. Sure. And some of the thinking around that.
So we're not going to make any value judgments in terms of what's going to be allowed in there. It's more going to say this is what is currently allowed in there, and we're going to try to prime the area for responsible development, interacting with the public and with the council. What that means is a lot of things may be changed to be allowed by special permit to put some brakes in the process. That's a tool that's used through land use to create a check and balance, so that something might not be allowed by right. It may be allowed by special permit. We might look to those issues, look to the density issues, look to the boundary issues, look to the parking issues, one thing that immediately jumped out at me was the $2,000 per space offset. That is speaking from my experience as a land use, I've been working in land use pretty much my entire adult life. I've never seen that before. Nobody I've talked to has ever seen that before. It's my belief it creates a structural inequity within the zoning itself. So we're going to look to address that, do a little bit more research, and give it to the council for its consideration, among others. And we're excited to have you involved as well as a council liaison to share that perspective.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
All right, last item on my thing. I'm out of the States starting tomorrow until Saturday. In my stead, Dave Rodriguez will be acting town manager.
Can I ask questions?
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Is it about discus?
No, it's not about this. It's about the first thing you was bringing up about Euro Beach and the piping plovers. And, you know, I want to thank the DPW for putting up the berms that they put up during the storm season to keep, you know, the water from coming over and destroying all those houses on the Strand and Brewster Avenue. But now I have a problem because I see them taking that sand, lifting it up, bringing it down to the edge of the water, and then leveling down into the water with that sand. When, you know, I really believe, and I've been saying it for close to 10 years, that sand should be taken, since you're lifting it anyway and bringing it down there, take it to one end of the beach or the other. Not where the piping plovers are, but where the rocks are. Where the jetty is, and the area beside it and around it is covered with rocks that you can't walk on. Same thing on the very other end, near the MWRA wall. It's an all rocky beach. That sand that's being piled up and brought back down, of course, is just gonna come back up with the storms. But if we move it down and cover those rocks, we're gonna have a more usable beach, because Shore Drive is a mess and it can't be used. So most of the people from Winthrop come to Euro Beach to use the beaches in the town. So it should be a sandy beach, and we have the sand to do it with. All it takes is moving it 20 yards this way or 20 yards that way from the berms, instead of putting it back to the water where it's just gonna come back up. So I think that should be done, number one. Number two, talking about Euro Beach again. The DPW did a great job. They had a young lady from the DPW who cleaned up the entire area between the wall and Shirley Street, which is dead space. That dead space should be a parking lot. I've been saying that for 10 years. We need that to be turned into a parking lot with striped areas to alleviate the congestion and parking when people do come to the beach. That could be a huge parking lot that would fit at least 60, 70 cars. That would be great winter parking, plus it would be great beach parking. It could be striped, and we could even be charging people to park there, non-Winthrop residents, and develop some income that would cover the paving of that lot, which doesn't seem like it would be a lot of work to do. All right, and another income. And thirdly, because it's Euro Beach and because people are using it all summer long, last year we had no lifeguards on it. A couple of years back, we did have lifeguards on it. They were supplied by Massport because they have a situation where they hire teenagers, they give us employees. But you have to apply for that now to get it, because they're already assigning these jobs. Because I know that they've already assigned some people jobs at different pools to be lifeguards. So we should be applying for that for this year, so we don't go another year facing possible drastic liability if something happens on that beach. Those are my questions.
Do you want to speak to the
Yeah,
first two?
I try to address the first couple anyways. I can't speak to the lifeguard issue. The sand management that you're talking about, it's all due respect, it's not 20 yards this way or 20 yards that way.
50?
No, it's about a half a mile, you know, to bring to the two rockiest spots. That said, we're just seeing with the machines. We have you know, two machines, one loader right now, one's down, and we have a backhoe. But we're able to move a lot more sand. We're dismantling that berm. So by scooping and back dragging, you're actually moving a lot more sand a lot quicker, a lot more efficiently. To move that sand bucket by bucket, because we don't have large earth movers or the oversized wheels to move that sand half mile. it's not effective. I mean, you were one of the biggest voices, and I agreed with you when you said most of the sand came from the DCR project, which is north of that beach. So to take this berm, all the effort to move it up towards behind, the water tower area where those rocks are, and I agree, it's just gonna move, I mean, that's a north location, and that water circulates in a counterclockwise movement. So that sand's coming right back. So I don't know that we can justify the time and effort to move it in that direction. Trying to move it bucket by bucket down to the southern part of Yarrow Beach, we can talk about it, but you see the size of that berm. That's a lot of sand. So now you're gonna have a mountain of sand in front of several houses down the other side of the beach. So we're trying to, without removing that sand off the beach, which we know our permit doesn't allow, we're trying to manage it in the best way we can and to create an area for people to utilize. It is a challenge, and the equipment that we have makes it, and the manpower makes it more of a challenge, but I don't think we want to move the sand north, because it's coming right back at us, just like what happened at Front Beach down to Yarrow Beach.
I agree with you if you're talking about going around the other side of the jetty, but I think if you're stay on this side of the jetty and go up towards
the red house in the corner?
The red house, that's all rocky, and that never gets water. I mean,
but you're moving it with the front end loader one bucket at a time.
I've seen
3 yards to try to move tens of thousands of yards of sand. So, I mean, the equipment's not there to do that, and I'm not certain that it's all going to stay where it is. And again, that is an area where the plovers do migrate to, so we're kind of trying to manage the whole problem, and it's a big problem.
Steve, you would have a permit problem as well, wouldn't you have to apply if you were gonna do that much work?
Our permit allows us to manage the sand on the beach right now, but we do have to be, it doesn't allow us to dump sand on a habitat. So we do have to be cognizant of that. Hopefully that helps answer some of what we're trying to do there and the challenges we have. To go to your parking lot statements, I agree it would be a great opportunity to create parking down there. You're not going to create as much parking as you think, because it does kind of taper. That said, it's in a buffer zone, so that's also a permitting. To put hardtop in a buffer zone is not an easy thing to permit. It would require, again, taking down part of that knee wall. It has been looked at. There has been a design put together. I worked on it actually with Dave Hickey years ago, and it stalled at the Conservation Commission process. It wasn't really accepted. We can certainly look at it again and see if maybe a hard pack or something if we want to consider some sort of parking down there. But the parking, it's not Nahant Beach. You're not going to get that kind of, when you really look at it and it kind of tapers down, you have to have a travel lane for the parking to work. You can't back out onto Shirley Street. It gets a little bit challenging. We can certainly put spots there, but I don't know if it's as many as everybody kind of envisions. Hopefully that helps. I'm happy to look back into that parking situation.
I would welcome looking at that as well. I want to activate our beaches as much as possible, so I'm on the same page with you. Did you want to ask a question quick?
No, it just, on that issue, there was a study years back, a long time ago, and it was the neighbors basically that did not want.
The neighbors weren't in favor of it either.
Right.
You're right.
And that was the biggest obstacle down there.
And then
that's gone away.
We can certainly revisit it.
So, and then in terms of the lifeguards, Sean Driscoll has been working with Massport concerning the summer work program and stuff like that. I'm not sure if lifeguards were involved with it for the beaches, but I can check with him about that.
I don't think he was. I think he just got the park guys, and nobody has asked for the lifeguards yet.
He may have, but or he may have just asked for the park people, but I can circle back with him about that.
Just one last comment. See if you can borrow something bigger from MWRA.
He actually has an answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, MWRA, they have, lent us loaders, but with operators. And they're not bulldozers, and these loaders, a bucket loader is anywhere between 2.5 and 3 yards. And you gotta move it, so the areas that you're talking about, you gotta move it a far distance. Dump trucks obviously aren't gonna make their way across that beach. They just aren't capable, they dig right in. So it's a very, very big undertaking, and I'm not sure that sand doesn't end up right back there. And I don't know if we can sustain it every year.
Okay. Anyone else?
One thing, on that, the National Guard did the bunker down at Fort Banks years ago. They came out on weekends and stuff. I don't know if that's a feasible option they brought heavy equipment down and they excavated that.
Again, the pipe and plovers, you have to have spotters anytime there's equipment on the beach. So we have one spotter on our staff, one spotter per vehicle. So if you put multiple vehicles out there, you need multiple spotters. We don't have them on our staff. We can certainly reach out to Mass Audubon or Fish and Wildlife, but those birds are very, very protected. And having that kind of activity at this time of year during breeding season is very, very difficult to do. So.
Okay.
Anyone else?
You through, Austin?
I am.
Thank you.
Just a quick thing, I just want to say, I really want to thank Steve. I know Steve had to be here for a public hearing, but I think it's crucial. I really miss having Steve here, and I hope he can attend more meetings. I know his schedule might not permit it, but I think it's important for the council to be able to reach out on stuff and get things answered in a timely manner, and I really appreciate him being here and hope to see more of him.
Okay. Anything else? Nope. Okay.
School department update. The Winthrop School Committee honored this was from the March 25th meeting. The Winthrop School Committee honored the Winthrop Middle School Quiz Bowl champs with citations. I think we have one of the awardees right here, my grandson. Nice job, Christian, and that group. The Winthrop High School Student Council attended a 2-day workshop on Cape Cod. The Winthrop School Committee discussed the recommendations prepared by Superintendent Howard regarding the ATC playground with a projected cost of about $141,000. Several variations have to be reviewed with hopes of scheduling construction at the close of the school year. The superintendent has been working with the town manager regarding the funding for the project. The Viking Longship program is studying the possibilities of starting a blacksmith class at the high school. More info to follow. Winthrop High School is in the process of planning a wellness week. And finally, the installation of the solar panels on the high school and middle school is scheduled to begin April 6th. They are working out a schedule so that there will be limited impact on the parking in the rear of the high school. Old business. I'll defer to the Chair of Finance.
Thank you. We have two motions coming out of finance. First of all, we did have a finance committee meeting, which we're bringing down here, and we had two motions on it. Both motions were passed. One motion had an amendment to go from $80,000 to $60,000. Let me read the motion of the first one. The first one is concerning the lead water lines that Director Caller explained earlier. The text of the motion is that the town council appropriate $487,850 to pay cost of replacing lead water lines to residences throughout the town, including cost of engineering studies and surveys, construction costs, and all other costs incidental and related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $487,850 and issue bonds or notes of the town, therefore, under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 8, Paragraph 5, or pursuant to any other enabling authority. That the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the MWRA lead line replacement program, and in connection therewith to enter into a loan agreement and/or financial assistance agreement with the authority, and otherwise to contract with the authority with respect to such loan and for any grants or aid available for the project or financing thereof. That the town manager is authorized to accept and expend any grants or aid available for the project or for the financing therefore, with grants and/or aid be expended for the project in addition to the amount appropriated and to be borrowed under this order. And that the town manager is authorized to acquire by purchase, eminent domain, or otherwise such rights, title, easements as may be necessary for such purposes, to abandon such rights, titles, easements
as are no longer required, to expand all funds available for the project or to take any other action relative thereto to carry out the project. Any premium received upon the sale of the bonds or notes approved by this order, less any such premium applied by the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. So this was approved by the Finance Commission. Again, this is mandated by the state and federal government. This is, if we were to do this, we would go through the MWRA lead replacement program, which is a interest-free 10-year note. And just for any questions that are out there, we feel that there is sufficient money in the existing water rate to sustain this. We do not plan any increases to sustain this bond. We feel we have enough resources in the current rate to sustain this. So this is not an increase in the water rates. I just want to make that clear. We did approve it. We did ask questions about it. We were concerned about the water rates and concerned about the amount of homes that are left in the town. Concerned if any citizens had concern, if there is a list available. I think if you call DPW, if you wanted to know if you were one of the 840 odd homes that have lead from the meter to the street, you're more than welcome to see if you're on that list. MWRA used to run a free water testing program. They do not do that anymore, but I believe you can get you could call DPW maybe and get a bottle. And if Director could just explain that a little quicker and easier to me.
And as part of the Safe Drinking Water Act, we have the lead and copper rule requires us to do samples. So we're already doing 15 samples twice a year in 2 schools twice a year for lead and copper. We're always looking for candidates. People sometimes take it as an inconvenience that they got to do the sample. It's a great tool for both them and us to make sure that the lead levels and copper levels are where they need to be. So we can always put them on a sampling round, but you can also, we're happy to deliver a bottle with instructions on how to sample to the homeowner. And MWRA does not do it anymore for free. They may do it at a fee, but there are certainly laboratories that we can recommend to have that done. But again, we have to do it twice a year. Anybody that's really interested in it, we can get them on the roster.
So there are roughly 4,600 homes in the town, and there's roughly 840 left to do this. So this is probably another 8, 9, 10-year project. It does come back to the council with positive recommendation. Does not need a second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Council President?
Yes, sir.
My question is to DPW Director Calla can you clarify how sort of many of these pipes are left in town? Like how many are in town total? How many are left to need renovation?
Of the 4,600 services, there's approximately 840 known full lead line services. Now that's from the main all the way to the meter. There are a number of partial lead services out there, but the program, the lead and copper program requires it to be a tier 1 site, which is a full lead service from main to meter.
Okay. And with this $487,000, approximately how many of those will be converted over?
100.
100, got it. And what's the time frame to do that?
We need to get it done this calendar year.
Okay. And how will you decide which leads happen? Like, what's the priority system?
Again, it's basically a random pick from the 840. There's no priority over another priority. The lead line services that need to be removed.
And just for clarification, any streets that are out there in town that have been resurfaced and done, they're already lead-free. So this is not going to rip up any streets that have just been done over to doing this.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll call.
Council Ringman?
Yes.
Council Calla? Council Christopher?
Yes.
Council Boncory?
Yes.
Council Lucerto? Council Farino?
Yes.
Council Conti?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Vecchia?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Terry.
Okay, there's a motion Motion that the town council transfer $80,000 from Fund 965 Building Maintenance Stabilization Fund to Fund 989 Old Middle School for the purpose of paying for the utilities and property insurance for this building or take any other action relative thereto. This also came out of committee. We suggested a amendment to this to change that $80,000 figure to $60,000. We feel pretty confident that as we've heard comments tonight, we want to feel absolutely sure that it seems like we haven't been getting clarity on this issue for several years. I applaud the town manager and the CFO for really taking the lead on this and trying to get clarity to us. We feel that $60,000 with the finance committee's best tools that we use, we feel $60,000 is enough to get us through this calendar year. The insurance for the building has been paid. We just have to replace that line item there, so that's roughly 30 of this 60, and the other 30 will go to make sure that all utility bills are paid and up to date. So it did come back to the council with a positive recommendation with an amended amount to $60,000.
Okay, it's out of finance. Any discussion on the motion?
Council President, I understand that this bill needs to get paid, but this sort of seems like an opportunity for the council to put a line in the sand for what is going to be our next steps at the middle school site. I think we'd be a little remiss just to kind of pay this bill and kick the can down the road. And I'd like to kind of inquire, what are we expecting to happen next on the middle school site to see progress there?
Well, Council President, I will say that this building was turned over to the town in 2017, early 2017. And this bill is resulting, in my best estimation, from a poor budget last year, which took this line item out. If this line item was in the budget as it should have been, we would not be coming to the council for this money. There is a cost associated with maintaining that building. We do not want to border that for a multitude of reasons. First of all, visually, it's just an eyesore for the town, and economically, it would be that much more unfeasible to run. I think it's imperative that we actively pursue opportunities, and I'm sure that the town manager and assistant town manager is quite diligent in trying to get this resolved as soon as possible. As of now, we still have to maintain a building. And this is not just for the building that's not being used. The majority of this money is going towards parts of the building that are being used. But the insurance part is a big piece of it for the old middle school. So
what is the next step for the middle school site? What are we doing? What can we sort of tell the people of the town that we're doing to change the situation, to not have a vacant building there that we need to pay $60,000 or $80,000 a year for utility bills on?
So one, it's not vacant. We have programs from the town in there. Parks and Rec is in there. But beyond that, what we are doing right now is doing title research, and we're assessing all of the equipment that is still inside of the building. There's a fair amount of school-related equipment that's still there that we're assessing to surplus and get out of the building. And we are moving rapidly towards putting out an RFP. And another additional part of that is the conversation concerning zoning, if it would fall within what we are utilizing within the Center Business District zoning, or if it would be something like an overlay, a special district or something like that. So we need to tie all of those things out and then put it out to bid. What that should look like is most likely this summer, I would say, late this summer, putting out a bid and getting an idea of developers that are interested in the project, or interested in the site, and proposals on what they would actually like to do with the site.
So you kind of laid out three things there: surplusing the materials in there, redoing the zoning, and putting out an RFP.
Yep.
Did you say that you're sort of committed to having all of those completed by the end of this summer?
I think it's feasible to get it done by the end of this summer, I would say. But I can't put a hard deadline on it because the title research can take time. There's claims about where the property line lays with the park right there as well. So we're trying to get all of our ducks in a row so that when we put it out to bid, we don't have to pull the bid and then re-put it out because we didn't do our due diligence in terms of title search and things like that. So we're trying to clean up everything so that we can put it out one time, get our bids back and make a selection and move on to a great new world with something else happening at that site, whatever it may be.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, I'll call the vote.
Counselor Ringman?
Yes.
Counselor Callum? Counsel Christopher?
Yes.
Counsel Boncory?
Yes.
Counsel Lozerto? Counsel Farino?
Yes.
Counsel Conti?
Yes.
Vice President Lettieri?
Yes.
President Vecchia?
Yes.
Thank you.
Under new business, certifying town manager authority to file DEP Center Business District. Do you want to just top line that before I read the motion?
Do you have anything more to add on this? I think it's just mostly, it's a pro forma type of thing.
Okay. That the town council vote to authorize town manager Austin Paisan to act on behalf of the town of Winthrop as its agent in filing applications for, executing agreements regarding, and performing any and all actions necessary to secure for the town of Winthrop such loans for construction or planning of the water pollution abatement projects as may be available to the town of Winthrop pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Clean Water Act, MGL 21, Section 27-33E, inclusive as amended, and the Water Pollution Abatement Revolving Loan Program, MGL-C 29C, for the Center Business District Infrastructure Improvements Project, or take any other actions thereto.
So moved.
We have a, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Council President.
Yes.
So, can you walk us through exactly what authorization this is? Like, who has the power now? What would be the impact of granting the town manager this authority?
So this is as part of the DEP filing permitting for the Center Business District. The permitting and loan application process through SRF and MWRA is being spearheaded by Woodard and Curran. So it does require, that process does require this authority to file. It's just telling MWRA and it's telling the world that the council is okay with the town manager moving forward with this project as approved.
And who has that authority currently?
The charter dictates that the manager has that authority. However, they need that, in order to check that box, they need this piece of paper.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Oh, one abstention. Under new business, town council transferred $35,000 from the reserve fund appropriation to the police department budget union negotiation.
Motion to refer to finance.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Town council transferred $30,000 from the reserve fund appropriation to DPW department budget union negotiation.
Motion to refer to finance.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Transfer $25,800 from the town council reserve fund for a special article in the general fund to be named the CBD peer review.
Motion to refer.
There's a motion to refer.
Second.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? The ayes have it. The final one, which you'll have to refer to, I don't know if everybody got a copy of this. Did everyone get one? Transfer of $251,722 legal reserve to the police personnel account.
Motion to refer to finance.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Public comment. Yes.
Christian Bonaparte, Precinct 5. I just would like to let everyone know that the Winthrop Middle School Drama Society is putting on a play this weekend. Friday the 5th at 7 p.m., Saturday the 6th at 7 p.m., and Sunday the 7th at 2 p.m. Tickets are $5 for students and seniors and $8 for adults. If you're wondering what the plays are, there'll be 4 10 to 15 minute plays and then 1 40-minute play after an intermission. And it's at the Neil Shapiro Center for the Performing Arts. And I'd like to invite everyone to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, Tom.
I tried to speed up through some of the things I wanted to say earlier because you had such esteemed guests coming and fire hero and a hockey championship team. Again, but a couple of my neighbors came in after I got up and speak, and they weren't aware of what I was saying. I did locate with the assistance from Dick Dunn, well, not with assistance from Dick Dunn, from Dick Dunn. Dick is continuing to be an asset to the town, even though he's well into his 90s. Dick always made sure he kept copies of various things, and even when he moved from a large house on Johnson Ave to the apartments up on Fort Heath, kept some things. So we've got a couple of maps. I think they clarify the issue about where the boundary would be between the business districts and the center. In fact, they may cloud it a little bit, because if you come down, if you're familiar with Cottage Park Road, when you come down, there's the Lost House next to mine, it's there, and there's an open area, and then the commercial building. That open area, according to one of these maps, may very well be in a residential district. So the residential district isn't the boundary line between the Ferranti house. It may be further down if this is accurate, but we still would have to take an awful hard look at it. I'm hopeful that the review that we've talked about today is going to be productive. I think people have to understand the skepticism that people have going into it. It's not because of anybody that's dealing with the issue right now, but we went from a map and a master plan that was inadequately and poorly drawn, that raised a bit of confusion. Then the town manager went through an extensive amount of research and told the neighbors that the boundary is where you'd expect it to be, the homes aren't in the district. That's important because there's a difference. There's a 4-story limit, but if it's adjacent to a residential district, the limit is 2.5 stories. Immediately upon getting that good news, we're told, well, the 2.5-story limit only effective for the first 2.5 stories. But if you move the building in a story, go up and move it back in again 10 feet, you can build 4. So it's not 2.5, it's actually 4. The 2.5 apparently only applied to the first 2.5 stories, not to the 3rd and 4th story. We know, okay, I know positively that there's 2 properties at the end of Cottage Park Road and Somerset Avenue. The owner of one of those properties was told that he was able to build 4-story units. I'm almost sure. Okay? I don't bet very often, but I would place a substantial bet on the fact that the other property owner was told the same thing. The maps are missing, so we now come back and we say, okay, well, Terry Delahanty did all that work, but we don't really know. We've got some doubt. We've got some questions. We don't know whether it's there or not. So we said, well, let's go look at the maps. Now the maps are missing. So we've been through it, an up and down period of time. So we really need to, it's important that we get this clarified. I'm hopeful that the work is what you're talking about being done comes back. I'm pretty sure that the maps that Dick gave me today definitively show that the homes on Cottage Park Road and on Bartlett Road are not in the business district. But the business district, the stores that you would see, and if you walk down there, it's readily apparent, consist of the business district. But I just wanted to clarify that, but I also wanted to be sure that we get the thank you into Dick, because he continues to be a great asset.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, Dan.
From what I heard from Rose, as our good veteran agent, she's doing the work of 2 people. I mean, I don't know if there's any money to afford her, whether for part-time or full-time assistance, or at least a vehicle or something, but I was just blown away. And I kind of think that's that, social work mentality that kind of makes you think you got to work for free. And it just hit me how many hours she puts in, and she's really would certainly benefit from at least a part-time assistant. That's all. Regarding the E.B. Newton and the Coppola, I was just wondering if some of the contractors in town or even out of town can, just put their signs up on the E.B. Newton School as volunteering to repair some of that. The clock certainly would require much more sophisticated engineering.
You'd be surprised.
But I was just throwing that out, because I know this town, and I know, when people were in trouble, they kind of band together and have fundraisers for people with cancer and all. Not to say that Cupola has cancer, but it's looking pretty bad. But I just, throwing that out. Maybe somebody on WCAT who's watching this, might take, the initiative to say, let's band together, see what we can do. Just throwing it out there again. And again, thank you though for the open session. I do appreciate the attention and the consideration that you do give the populace in our town. Thank you so much for being involved.
Yes, go ahead.
It gets a little more extensive than just going up there and painting it, because there is a lot of rot. And actually, the mechanism for the clock itself is not large at all. It's maybe the size of a baseball glove. Yeah, it's not big, and it's deceiving from the way you look at it than what it actually is up there. But it needs a lot of attention. There's some structural things that are starting to rot, and so I mean, last time I was up there was probably 10 years ago. So and it was getting bad then. So I can imagine 10 years later.
Issue even going up there.
Right.
Wow.
Well, there's also, you know, when there's water running into the building, there's wiring and stuff. There's also, like you said, a safety hazard.
Yeah. We all couldn't help but think of Back to the Future.
Right. Yeah. To raise $100,000 or so, it's not that easy.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as the ferry is concerned, with all the development that's going on around us, I mentioned to a few people that are in development, and you might be looking for a couple more ferries to get where you want to go in the future. So I think there should be a study on that. As far as Yarrow Beach is concerned, I think, Bill, your comments are well worth listening to, because Yarrow Beach is filling in with cobble from the ocean floor, and it's filling in drastically. So I wouldn't remove the sand from Yarrow Beach. I would make a plan to be able to save it. So I think that should be studied extensively, because the jetty, as you call it, from the water tower, and I talked to the woman that does the work at Yarrow Beach. She informed me that it's moved approximately 500 feet in the last 10 years south. I think it's caused by the north revetment wall on Deer Island, because there used to be tideland down there where the water pushed in a longshore current. The water was able to push through, even when Chilligut was filled in, it was able to push through the tideland. Now it's not, so now it's driving the cobble up to the beach. The state does a study, and I was told by the person that was doing the study last week, a topographical study, that they're now doing it every 6 months. I've asked for this study on half a dozen of occasions. The state has it. He told me he was employed by A+ Construction Company. I looked him up, you can't find it. So now they're doing it every 6 months. I don't see the study getting to anybody here. Does anybody know about that study? So it was just done 2 weeks ago. It was done 6 months ago. It was done a year ago. So that study by the state is telling them that the land is changing down there, but they're not telling us how it's changing. I think you look surprised when I said that the cobble has moved over 500 feet. But there's a measuring device, and it's the girl that takes care of the beach, because she knows where the bird nests every year for the past 10 years. And it's moved, yeah, so now she knows that it's moved, because that bird goes to that exact location. So I think you should study that, Phil. I think you should have a group to study Yarrow Beach, so that it can be used in the future for the enjoyment of the townspeople. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Yes.
I just want to announce that I'm asking Denise to post a meeting, a Precinct 2 community meeting, Monday, April 8th at 6:30 p.m. at the E.B. Newton Lyceum Room. The agenda will basically be focused around questions on the 2020 budget, as well as any other items pertinent to Precinct 2. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Just a reminder that the next town council meeting will be on the 16th, and we will be at the senior center. That'll be the spring forum, and it's all around the budget. Correct? So we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.